You see this life today's gateman might be tomorrow's savior. What if I told you a billionaire once publicly insulted her own gateman like he was dirt, right in front of her rich friends? But that same gateman, he became the only one left standing when her entire world fell apart. This is not Nollywood fiction. This is Lagos. Real betrayal. Real shame. Real love. And it all started with one insult at the gate.
Banana Island, where cars cost more than primary schools, and the poor exist like background noise. To the people behind those golden gates, gatemen weren't people. They were props. Silent figures with stained uniforms, existing just to make life smooth. No one cared about their names. No one cared about their dreams. Except David Palm Dong used to have dreams. He wasn't supposed to be here. Mechanical engineering graduate, University of Jos. Top of his class. Industrial training with Julius Berger. Big plans. But after NYSC, Lagos swallowed him. The phone calls dried up. The promises disappeared. The only thing constant was hunger. So when his uncle said, "There's one family at Banana Island looking for a gateman, you fit manage," David said yes. Not because he wanted it, but because poverty doesn't negotiate. Every day, David stood at that rusty black gate. Sweat rolling down his back. Mosquitoes humming near his ankles. Outside, poverty. Noise. Inside, money. Silence. Perfume. It was like standing at the entrance of heaven, wearing rags. And he was tired. But men don't cry in Lagos unless they are ready to be mocked. So David wore his pain the way Lagosians wear sunscreen, hidden, ignored, but still there underneath. It was supposed to be a normal afternoon. But Lagos doesn't like normal. Lagos loves chaos. The black Range Rover curved into the driveway, tires screaming against the newly polished tiles. In the back seat, Sarah Oduwell. Money didn't just flow through her veins. It dripped from her last name. Daughter of Sir Bernard Oduwell, one of the men who turned a pot into their personal piggy bank. Sarah wasn't struggling for anything, except maybe attention. And that day, she was in no mood for delays. Her shades covered half her face, but not the irritation written across her posture. Her mood that afternoon was like a stretched rubber band, one insult away from snapping. "Why is this fool dragging the gate?" she muttered. Beside her, Ngozi, longtime friend, sometime enemy, the kind of friend that laughs harder when the insult isn't directed at her. "My dear, sack him now." Ngozi laughed. "These Banana Island boys behave like them, they do you favor." They didn't know about the rain the day before. They didn't know that David had oiled the gate 3 times already that week. They didn't know that David's slippers had holes. That his salary was being shared with his sick younger sister in Jos. That David was already planning on quitting the job to focus on job applications again. But Lagos doesn't care about your backstory when you delay rich people at the gate. Sarah's voice sliced through the tension like blade on ripe pawpaw. "Are you mad? Is this your father's house? If I come down from this car, I will scatter you here." Laughter. Ngozi couldn't contain herself. And Tolu, with her ridiculous American accent, slowly raised her phone to record. David felt the insult hit his stomach before it hit his ears. Poverty doesn't just make you broke. It makes you silent. It trains you to take things you should never take. But David didn't beg. He forced the key, turned it sharply, the rust groaning like an old man with arthritis. He opened the gate wide, stepping aside, his face a perfect mixture of shame and coldness. No apology. No, sorry, Ma. Just silence. And that's when Sarah delivered the insult that would not only change his life, but hers too. Then spat at him. It seems you are tired of your job. You think because you're holding a key you're suddenly important. Look at yourself. Even your slippers don't respect you. You should be thanking me for letting you stand at this gate, not wasting my time like your entire family didn't beg to put you here. It broke something in David's chest. Not tears. Not screams. Just quiet, burning dignity. It wasn't just the words. It was the public disgrace. The way her friends giggled. The way her voice echoed in the compound, bouncing off granite walls and marble floors. It was the humiliation of a man with a degree, reduced to a gate, like the old broken padlock he was turning. 2 days later, Lagos did what Lagos does best. Some bored Twitter user uploaded the video. Billionaire CEO insults her own worker Banana Island Waller. Within hours, it was everywhere. See the slippers SEF. Why this madam they insult person when she knows Sobi wetting they worry. No poor man they collect all the aggression rich people reserve for their wicked uncles. Why is it always the ones who inherited money acting like them build the empire with cement? David's frozen face became meme material. Pictures of his rubber slippers became profile pictures for rebellion. Sarah tried PR. She paid bloggers to spin it. But the internet wasn't listening. It wasn't just about class. It was about power. Abuse of power. And Nigerians love fighting that fight. But that wasn't even the worst part for Sarah. It was that David's face wouldn't leave her phone screen. That face. Come. No insult back. No begging. Just the quiet humiliation of a man trained by Lagos to suffer without noise. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled somewhere far in Ikoyi, Sarah stood by her bedroom window and watched David at the gate. No umbrella. No raincoat. Just wet clothes sticking to his thin frame. What irritated her most was that he wasn't broken yet. He should have quit by now. He should have been crying by now. He should have stormed off, embarrassed, defeated, gone home to beg his relatives for transport fare. But no. David stood like a soldier in a war he didn't sign up for. That kind of dignity. It makes the guilty more uncomfortable than the insulted. Finally, curiosity overpowered her pride. Hey, she called from the balcony. What's your name again? Pause. Then. David, Ma. Why didn't you beg? David's answer would change everything. I don't like begging for what I didn't cause. That was the moment Sarah realized. This wasn't just some Banana Island security boy. This was a broken man, who had survived too many beatings from life to flinch at her insult. She didn't know whether to feel insulted or impressed. What she didn't know yet was that this small moment of attention, it wasn't the beginning of love. It was the beginning of war. Because while Sarah was discovering humility, someone else was discovering betrayal. And Lagos. Lagos was sharpening knives for what was about to come next. Banana Island had never felt this tense before. The insults might have been over, the dragging on Twitter might have started fading, but something worse was hanging in the air. Awkwardness. Sarah Oduel wasn't used to being ignored. For as long as she could remember, people either feared her, admired her, or pretended to do both. But David, after everything, after the whole nation dragging her name like a sack of onions on the market floor, this gateman still stood at her gate like she was nothing special. It was embarrassing. It was confusing. And in a strange, uncomfortable way. It was attractive. But not like love. No, not yet. This was something far more dangerous, curiosity. Sarah was used to men kneeling before her like job applicants. Rich boys, political sons, expatriates with gym bodies, she'd seen all of them crack under her stare. But this one, a gateman, in faded jeans, slippers betraying him, standing like poverty itself owed him an apology. It annoyed her how dignified he looked with nothing to his name. That week, Banana Island kept moving like nothing happened. Ngozi still came around, pretending to be supportive. Tolu still dropped by, acting like she hadn't uploaded half of the video online. Her family, up in Victoria Island, still sent passive-aggressive texts. Don't let small people drag the family name to the gutter. Small people. That's what they called men like David. Not by height, but by status. But what they didn't know was that small people are often the ones with the biggest stories. 2 days later, Sarah finally spoke to David again. It wasn't kind. It wasn't polite. It was defensive, like a guilty child trying to act strong after breaking mommy's glass cup. She was upstairs. He was wiping down the security post after another annoying Banana Island rain. Why are you still here? She snapped. After all that embarrassment, you're supposed to have run away by now. David didn't look up. His voice was steady. Not only thief they run because of shame. I no thief anything. It hit her like slap. Not his voice. The truth in it. David had been insulted in front of the whole country, yet here he was, still standing, still showing up, still walking like he was guarding heaven's gates. For a woman like Sarah, used to men melting at her voice, that was terrifying. Because she didn't know how to fight dignity. But Lagos doesn't like silence for too long. Where guilt grows, betrayal is usually wearing slippers nearby. One night, David stayed later at the gatehouse. His phone battery was flat. He was using the time to think, not about Sarah, but about how to get out of this life. He was planning something. Applying for factory jobs again. Maybe relocate to Ibadan. Lagos had failed him. Maybe mechanical engineering would finally open its door if he just left this city of noise and betrayal. But then, he heard voices. It wasn't Sarah. It wasn't the drivers. It was Ngozi. In the guest lounge. Talking on the phone. Listen, I don't care what she thinks. She's been ignoring me ever since that stupid video went viral. She's a fool. And this time, I'm going to finish her. I have everything on her father's offshore accounts, all those London properties they've been hiding from EFCC. By the time I'm done, she won't even be able to rent a flat in Lekki Phase 2, talk less of Banana Island. Stupid billionaire's daughter. Let's see who'll still smile when I'm done. David froze. Betrayal wasn't new to him. But this was war. Sarah's own best friend, planning to take her down, not with insults, but with ruin. David could have walked away. After all, didn't she insult him? Didn't she spit at him like he was less than dust? But something inside him refused to be petty. Not because he liked her. Not because she was beautiful. Because of one thing. Poverty makes you soft in the wrong places. David had seen what betrayal looked like. He'd watched his own uncle steal money meant for his school fees back in Jos. He'd seen how rich people destroy each other in courts, fighting over companies their parents built. But this was unnecessary evil. And if there's one thing David still owned, even if he didn't own fine shoes or a decent salary, it was his conscience. That night, he said nothing. But the next evening, after locking the gate, wiping his hands, and adjusting his tattered shirt, he walked slowly to the main house door. Sarah was sitting on the stairs by herself, no guards, no assistants, just cranberry juice and tiredness written across her face like unpaid nipper bills. "Ma, we need to talk," he said gently. It felt ridiculous, a gateman warning a billionaire about danger. But as David explained everything, the phone call, the betrayal, the offshore accounts, the setup, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not fear of the betrayal itself. No, Sarah was Ojuel blood. She could buy lawyers in cartons. But fear, that she had been living her whole life with people she didn't even know. People she fed. People she trusted. People who would rather see her destroyed just to trend on blogs. And now, the only person standing between her and destruction was the man in broken slippers at the gate. But the worst part, Sarah knew that Ngozi wasn't walking alone. This was bigger than gossip. It was political. Family enemies. Government enemies. Enemies who didn't like the power her father's name carried. And now, the fight wasn't just rich versus poor anymore. It was survival. But even as danger closed in, something else was happening. Sarah began to see David differently. Not like Charity. Not like small boy. But like a mirror. Two people, drowning in problems from different ends of the same broken Nigeria. She was rich but trapped. He was poor but free. And that realization, it scared her more than Ngozi's threats. Because real connection is more dangerous than fake romance. Real connection changes you. One evening, while the clouds gathered again for another Lagos thunderstorm, she said the words she thought she'd never say. Thank you. 2 words. But heavier than money. Heavier than apology. Heavier than guilt. David nodded. No problem. But in that moment, it wasn't just about helping her. It was about helping himself, finally proving to himself that no insult, no dragging, no betrayal could reduce who he really was. And Sarah. She was beginning to learn that the most dangerous enemy in life is the person you trusted when you were smiling. But the real twist was still hiding. Because family was watching. And family betrayal makes friend betrayal look like baby food. What was coming next would make that first insult look like a joke. When it landed, it would not only shake Sarah's world. It would test David's pride, manhood, and future in ways Banana Island itself couldn't prepare for. And this wasn't love yet. No flowers. No music. No kisses on the balconies. This was the war before romance. And Lagos. Lagos wasn't ready. After the viral video, Banana Island felt like one long, stretched-out rumor. Security men now greeted David with that half-respect, half-pity look. Drivers whispered behind tinted glasses. Cleaners paused to look at him like he was something between brave and stupid. But the real trouble wasn't online. The real trouble was inside. Behind the granite walls and imported curtains of the Ojuwe mansion, betrayal was brewing. And David? David was standing at the center of a storm he didn't start. Sarah tried to pretend she was still in control. She walked like power. She dressed like confidence. She even smiled sometimes. But behind those smiles? Confusion. What was this poor man doing to her chest? It wasn't love, at least, not yet. It was shame. It was guilt. It was curiosity. And most dangerously of all, it was respect. And respect is dangerous because once you start respecting someone, you start listening. Once you start listening, feelings creep in like water leaking under a closed door. But Sarah's biggest problem wasn't David. It was Ngozi. Ngozi had become a snake in the compound, smiling, laughing, sipping Sarah's imported cranberry juice, while sharpening knives behind her back. And the worst part. Sarah didn't know how deep the betrayal was yet. But David knew. That late-night call under the hibiscus tree wasn't a mistake. Ngozi wasn't just gossiping, she was actively working with people who wanted Sarah's family destroyed. Why? Greed. What Sarah didn't know was that Ngozi was broke. She was rich by association, not by account balance. She had debts. And her plan was simple. Sell Sarah out to the tabloids. Leak sensitive family business deals. Collect cash. Disappear. But betrayal has cousins. Envy. Jealousy. Bitterness. Ngozi didn't just want money. She wanted to see Sarah fall. And David was a problem. Because poor men who mind their business are easy to ignore. But poor men who know too much. Dangerous. 2 days after David told Sarah about Ngozi's betrayal, something strange started happening. First, Bill, Sarah's cousin, came visiting more often. Bill was the type of man Lagos women called fine for nothing. Handsome. Well-dressed. Empty inside. The kind of man who would sell his own family for extra likes on Instagram. David didn't trust him. And when poor men don't trust rich people, they're usually right. One afternoon, David overheard Bill and Ngozi whispering in the kitchen. Once the money lands, she's finished. How sure are you that this will work? Omo, relax. The blogs are ready. I've already sent them the fake bank documents. David's stomach sank. This wasn't just embarrassment anymore. This was a planned financial assassination. They weren't just after Sarah's reputation. They were after everything. David stood outside the security house that night, staring at the darkness. He didn't ask for this. He just wanted to work. To survive Lagos. But now, he was the only person who could save a billionaire from people wearing perfume and designer slippers. The next day, Sarah confronted Ngozi. Why are you always around when you weren't invited? Ngozi smiled like a snake caught under sunlight. So now you're pushing me out because of that your Gateman, ABI. Let me tell you, Sarah, this your charity project won't save you. You're finished. And then Ngozi did something that changed everything. She pulled out her phone and showed Sarah screenshots of the fake stories already prepared for release. Ojuwere heiress pregnant for Gateman. How Banana Island billionaire lost her inheritance to lust. Sarah's knees almost buckled. It wasn't just embarrassment at stake anymore. It was war. That evening, Sarah got a call from her father's lawyer. Sarah, I've just been informed that someone in your circle has leaked sensitive family account details. Your father is furious. He's freezing your business accounts. He's cutting you off until you sort this mess. Just like that, legacy gone. Lifestyle gone. The empire she thought was unshakable. Now one insult away from ashes. Sarah sat on her bed that night, broke for the first time in her life. The only person standing outside. David. But David wasn't thinking about romance. He was thinking about survival. He knew something Sarah didn't. Poor men don't just die from hunger in Lagos. They die from association. And by standing with Sarah, he had chosen a side. Against the wealthy. Against power. Against comfort. It wasn't love yet. It was something scarier. Loyalty. The betrayal didn't stop at Ngozi. It got worse. Bill planted fake evidence that Sarah and David were conspiring to steal Oduwell family money. He paid security guards to testify. He sent girls to claim they'd seen David stealing late at night. Suddenly, Sarah wasn't just broke. She was disgraced. And David? He was arrested. Inside the police cell, David sat on the cold floor, replaying his whole life in his head. Graduate. Engineering. Banana Island. Betrayal. Now, prison. And the funny part. All of this because he refused to beg at that gate. But that's when Sarah showed up. No makeup. No designer clothes. Just real. Raw. Broken. With evidence. Screenshots. Bank receipts. Voice notes. And standing behind her. An unexpected ally. Sarah's father's personal lawyer. Why? Because even in family politics, some people still believe in justice. Sarah's father didn't show mercy. But he gave her a choice. Leave the family, leave the money, or join us and destroy that boy. Sarah chose neither. She chose herself. She walked away. No press release. No pity party. Just left. David was released. But his face was everywhere on the internet. Billionaire's daughter leaves fortune for Gateman. Is this love or madness? They didn't have money anymore. Didn't have influence. Didn't have support. But they had something more powerful. Dignity. Sometimes, the greatest fight you will ever fight is not against poverty, but against the need to prove yourself to people who will never believe you deserve better. David didn't win because of money. He won because of dignity. Sarah didn't win because of family. She won because she chose herself. And in Lagos, that's the kind of wealth money can't buy. But the battle wasn't over. Because while Ngozi had lost, bail hadn't even started yet. After the arrest, the disgrace, the online dragging, Sarah's name was no longer spoken with pride in Lagos social circles. Her billionaire family had disowned her quietly, not on paper, but in behavior. Silent dinners. Ignored calls. Blocked accounts. But what hurt more than family silence was David's absence. He didn't disappear like a Nollywood runaway. No, he moved with dignity, like a general leaving a battlefield, not because he was defeated, but because he refused to fight for a war that wasn't his. Sarah tried to bury herself in work. But even though her inheritance was now gone, she still had her mind. Unlike many billionaire daughters who were just handbags with account numbers, Sarah had studied international business in the UK. She knew contracts. She understood startups. What she didn't understand was loneliness. And loneliness will humble even the most arrogant Banana Island princess. But David was building. Through a small tech contact from his university days, he joined a Lego startup as a logistics lead, not glamorous, but steady. He didn't use Sarah's name. He didn't touch that scandal for clout. While other guys would have sold the story to Instablog for $1 million, David kept silent. Because poor man gets pride too. But Lagos wasn't done testing them. It started subtly. An invite to a tech conference in Abuja. David almost ignored it, but his friend pushed him. Omo, networko. You never know which handshake they carry destiny. So he went. And guess who was sitting on the first row of that same conference? Sharp black gown, afro peak to perfection. Sarah. Not with guards. Not with Gucci. Just her. The version Lagos had never met before. Broke. Maybe. Beautiful. Absolutely. Powerful. More than ever. They saw each other across the conference hall. No love song played. No dramatic hug. Just two people who had fought life, lost their reputations, built themselves quietly, and accidentally found each other again. That's when the room froze. Not because of attraction, but because they both realized something at the same time. They were no longer the same people who had insulted and bowed by that Banana Island gate. This wasn't fairy tale reunion. It was two rebuilt lives crashing into each other, gently. Carefully. Respectfully. Later that night, outside by the conference center car park, they stood facing each other under Abuja's silent stars. Sarah spoke first. I don't know if I came here for the conference or for you. David laughed, small, broken, real. I don't even know if I came here for tech or just to run away from Lagos shame. Silence. Beautiful, human silence. Then she asked the question that held both danger and hope. Do you think we can try again? Different now. No money, no family mess, no Banana Island shadows. Just us. David didn't answer immediately. The temptation was there. After all, what was left to lose? But David was not the same Gateman anymore. He was a man who knew that love without peace is just another form of prison. He looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time, it wasn't Banana Island's princess standing before him. It wasn't disgrace. It wasn't pity. It was a woman. Tired, humbled, human, like him. And suddenly, he realized something. They had both been prisoners before. Not of each other, but of pride, wealth, family, and Lagos noise. But right now, they were free. So he gave her a small, slow smile. I'm not going to run anymore, he said quietly. But if we are going to do this, it has to be both of us. No shadows. No begging. No proving. Just partnership. Sarah's eyes glistened, not with weakness, but with strength. Deal. No fireworks. No dramatic kiss. Just two people standing in the dark, knowing that the future was unknown, but this time, they were choosing it together. 2 years later. Not Banana Island. Not Lekki. Not the Ojuwe mansion. A modest 3-bedroom apartment in Gorimpa, Abuja. Small but peaceful. Books on the shelves. Plants on the walls. Laughter in the rooms. They didn't build an empire, at least not yet. But they started a small logistics tech company together, one that helped local businesses move goods across cities. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't noisy. It was real. And love. It grew slowly. Respect first. Friendship second. Love last. The right order. Sometimes, the greatest win is not proving people wrong, it's proving yourself right. They didn't need Banana Island. They didn't need headlines. They didn't need apologies from people who never saw their worth. They built something more powerful than riches. Peace. Purpose. Partnership. Moral lesson. Real love isn't something you fall into. It's something you build. Slowly. Respectfully. On your own terms. And sometimes, choosing peace with the right person is the happiest ending of all. Don't chase people. Don't chase revenge. Chase peace. Because love without peace is just noise wearing perfume.